You step from the doorway and into the night, and the city opens around you like something vast and still. The air touches your face first, cool, damp, carrying the faint weight of rain that has already passed. It moves gently, not quite a breeze, just the slow circulation of night air between buildings, between streets, between the glass and stone that rise on every side. You stand without moving, letting the sensation settle. Your breath is visible for a moment, pale and thin, before it disappears into the larger darkness. The pavement beneath your feet is smooth in places, uneven in others. You feel the subtle differences through your shoes, the worn dip where countless footsteps have passed, the slight ridge where two sections meet. The surface is still wet, darkened by moisture, reflecting the light that falls from above in fragmented pieces. You do not look down yet. You keep your eyes forward, letting the city reveal itself slowly. The buildings climb upward on both sides of the street, their height impossible to measure from where you stand. You see them in portions, the base where stone meets pavement, the repetition of windows stacked floor upon floor, the edges softened by distance, and the pale glow of street lamps. Glass reflects glass. One tower catches the lit windows of another, and those windows reflect the traffic signal suspended between them, and the signal casts its amber light back onto the wet pavement where you stand. Everything mirrors everything else. You remain still. The sound of the city exists at a distance, softened into texture rather than individual sources. There is the low hum of traffic somewhere beyond your line of sight, the faint murmur of voices carried from a block away, the occasional sweep of tires over damp asphalt. A car passes on the street before you, its headlights stretching long and pale across the intersection, catching the mist that hangs faintly in the air. The light slides over the pavement, over the crosswalk lines painted in broad white strokes, over the metal grate embedded near the curb. Then the car is gone and the street returns to its quieter state. You take your first steps forward. They are slow, deliberate. You are not walking toward anything in particular. You are simply moving, allowing your body to enter the rhythm of the city. Your footfalls make almost no sound. The noise is absorbed immediately into the ambient hum, swallowed by the scale of everything around you. You walk perhaps 20 paces, then stop again. Here you're standing beside a storefront, its window dark, its interior visible only as shapes, racks, shelves, the edge of a counter catching a sliver of light from the street. The glass is tall, extending from the pavement almost to the height of your head, and in it you see the reflection of the street behind you. The traffic light cycles through its sequence. Red, amber, green. Red again. You watch it repeat, the colors bleeding slightly in the dampness, soft-edged and diffuse. You turn your attention upward. The building above the storefront rises in sections, each floor marked by a row of windows, some lit, some dark. The lit ones glow warm and golden, their interiors hidden behind curtains or blinds, only the light itself visible. The dark ones reflect the sky, the faint clouds moving slowly overhead, the distant glow of the city spreading outward in every direction. You tilt your head back farther, tracing the line of the facade as it climbs, narrowing slightly with perspective until it meets the sky. The sky itself is not black. It is a deep, muted gray, illuminated from below by the accumulated light of millions of bulbs, signs, windows, screens. You cannot see stars. You see only the suggestion of clouds, their edges blurred, drifting without haste. You lower your gaze and continue walking. The sidewalk is wider here, bordered by the dark trunks of trees planted at intervals, each surrounded by a low iron grate set into the pavement. The trees are bare, their branches thin and delicate, crossing and recrossing against the lit windows behind them. You pass beneath one, then another. Your pace does not change. You are not moving toward a destination. You are moving through arrival, letting it expand around you. Steam rises from a grate ahead, pale and slow, drifting upward in a loose, wandering column. You approach it without hurry. As you draw near, you feel the warmth radiating from the opening, a pocket of heat rising from somewhere beneath the street. The steam smells faintly metallic, earthy, tinged with the dampness of underground spaces. You step into it, and for a moment the street softens, hidden behind the pale veil. Then you pass through and the city reappears unchanged. You stop again. This time you are standing near the curb at the edge of the sidewalk where it meets the street. You place your hand on the cold metal post of a street lamp, feeling its solidity, its coolness. The lamp above you casts a circle of amber light onto the pavement, and you stand within it, watching the way your shadow stretches outward, soft-edged and faint. A taxi passes slow, its yellow paint catching the light, its tires hissing softly over the wet asphalt. You watch it move down the street, its taillights glowing red, growing smaller, disappearing around a distant corner. The silence that follows is not complete, but it feels close to stillness. You remain here, your hand still resting on the post, your breathing quiet. You notice the small details now, the way the moisture collects on the metal beneath your palm, the faint vibration you can feel through the post as a train passes somewhere far below the street, the way the light from the lamp above flickers almost imperceptibly, so briefly you might have imagined it. You lift your gaze again, looking not at the buildings but at the space between them. The street extends forward and backward, narrowing with distance, lined on both sides by the unbroken facades of stone and glass and brick. Above, the buildings lean inward slightly, not physically, but in the way they frame the sky, creating a corridor of air and light. You see the glow of windows stacked high, the dark lines of fire escapes zigzagging upward, the occasional illuminated sign mounted to a wall, its letters soft and steady. You step away from the post and walk again. Your path is not straight. You drift slightly toward the buildings, then back toward the curb, following no particular line, guided only by the gentle pull of observation. You pass another storefront, this one with a single light left burning inside, casting a warm glow onto the sidewalk. You slow, glancing in. The space is small, narrow, lined with shelves. You cannot tell what is sold here. It does not matter. You notice the way the light falls, the way the shadows gather in the corners, the way the glass reflects your own figure, small and indistinct. You move on. Ahead, the sidewalk narrows where a scaffold has been erected, its metal framework rising several stories, draped in protective netting that shifts slightly in the faint movement of air. You walk beneath it, the space above you suddenly enclosed, the sound of your footsteps changing slightly, becoming more contained. Then you emerge on the other side and the openness returns. You stop once more, this time for no reason you can name. You simply stand midway down the block, your hands loose at your sides, your gaze resting on nothing in particular. Around you, the city continues. A door opens somewhere behind you and you hear the brief swell of music, muffled and distant, before the door closes again and the sound is gone. A figure crosses the street far ahead, moving slowly, their shapes small beneath the traffic lights. A pigeon lands on the edge of a building cornice, settles, and is still. You breathe in, and the air is cool and damp and faintly metallic. You notice the way the light pools in the shallow depressions of the pavement, turning the wet stone into something almost luminous. You notice the way the shadows fall, layered and overlapping, cast by street lamps and signs and the distant headlights of cars that have not yet arrived. You notice the way the buildings hold their height without effort, rising and rising, patient and immovable. You begin walking again, your steps soft, your pace unchanged. The street curves gently ahead and you follow it, your eyes drifting from one detail to the next. The iron railing beside a short staircase leading down to a basement entrance. The corner of a building where the stone has darkened with age. The pale rectangle of a menu posted in a restaurant window, its text unreadable from this distance. You reach another intersection and stop at the corner. The crosswalks stretch wide before you, their white lines bright against the dark asphalt. The traffic light overhead cycles through its colors, and you watch without urgency. A van passes, then a cyclist. Their figure upright and steady, their wheels turning slowly. The light turns green, but you do not cross. You remain here, standing at the edge, letting the city move around you. You look upward again, longer this time. The buildings on each corner of the intersection are different heights, different eras, different materials. One is clad in dark glass, reflecting the street in a distorted mirror. Another is older, its facade carved stone, its windows framed by decorative arches. A third is brick, its surface textured and worn, each brick a slightly different shade of red or brown. You do not compare them. You simply see them, one after another, each holding its place in the architecture of the night. A light goes out in a window high above, and the darkness spreads slightly. You lower your gaze and finally cross the street, your steps slow, your path straight. On the other side, you pause again, turning slightly to look back the way you came. The street stretches behind you, the same as it stretches ahead, lit, damp, patient. You cannot see where you began. The distance has already absorbed it. You turn forward again and take a few more steps, then stop beside a bench. The bench is empty, its surface wet, reflecting the amber glow of the street lamp above. You do not sit. You stand beside it, your hand resting briefly on the cold metal backrest, your eyes following the line of the street as it extends into the distance. The lights blur together there, merging into a soft, continuous glow. You cannot see the end. You do not try. You remain here, standing, breathing, letting the arrival settle fully into your body. The city does not rush you. It holds itself steady, vast and calm, its immensity no longer overwhelming but simply present. You feel the coolness of the air, the dampness lingering on your skin, the solid weight of the pavement beneath your feet. You hear the distant hum, the occasional sound rising and fading, the silence that exists between. You see the light and the shadow, the glass and the stone, the height and the stillness. You are here now, arrived, standing in the night, and the city breathes quietly around you. You walk slowly along the avenue, your steps steady, your gaze resting on the stretch of pavement ahead. The buildings here are taller than before, their facades rising in unbroken columns of glass and steel, their edges sharp against the pale evening sky. The light has changed since you arrived. It is no longer full dark. The sky holds a faint residual glow, a deep blue-gray that lingers just above the roof lines, not quite night, not quite day. The street lamps have come on, casting their amber warmth onto the sidewalks, but the city still carries some of the softness of evening, some of the transition between hours. You pass beneath the overhang of a building entrance, its canopy extending out over the sidewalk, supported by thin metal columns. The space beneath is shadowed, cooler, removed from the glow of the street. You slow as you walk through it, noticing the way. Your footsteps echo faintly, contained by the low ceiling above. Then you emerge back into the open air and the sound disperses. You stop at the corner. The intersection here is wide, bordered by buildings on all four sides, each one climbing 30, 40, 50 floors. You do not count them. You simply feel their presence, the way they frame the sky, the way they create vertical corridors of light and shadow. The crosswalk stretches before you, its white lines bright against the dark asphalt. A few figures cross in the distance, moving at the same unhurried pace you have adopted. You watch them reach the other side, watch them disappear into the flow of the sidewalk. The traffic light changes and you cross. Your steps carry you into the center of the intersection, and for a moment you are surrounded on all sides by open space, by the width of the street, by the headlights of cars waiting at the signal. The pavement beneath you is smooth here, worn by years of tires and footsteps, its surface reflecting the lights in fragmented patches. You reach the far side and step back onto the sidewalk. Here, you pause again, turning slightly to look back. The intersection behind you is identical to the one ahead. The same width, the same configuration of crosswalks, the same buildings rising on each corner, but the light falls differently here. The windows on this side catch the fading glow from the western sky, while the buildings you just left are already deeper in shadow. You notice this without nomming it, without analysis. You simply see the difference, the subtle shift in tone. You continue walking, following the avenue as it extends northward. The storefronts at street level are a mixture of uses. Retail spaces with glass windows displaying clothing, electronics, books. Office building lobbies with polished floors and uniformed attendants standing just inside the doors. The occasional restaurant, its interior warm and softly lit, visible through windows fogged slightly by the contrast between inside and out. You pass each one slowly, your eyes moving from window to window, noticing without lingering. A woman exits a doorway ahead of you, pausing to adjust the strap of her bag before turning and walking in the opposite direction. You pass the doorway she came from, catching the faint scent of perfume, the warmth of conditioned air spilling briefly into the street. The door closes behind her and the coolness returns. You reach another corner and stop. This intersection feels the same as the last, and yet it is not. The buildings here are slightly different, one clad in dark stone rather than glass, another with a series of setbacks that create terraces as it rises, each level stepping back from the one below. You look up, following the line of the facade as it climbs, watching the way the light catches the edges of each terrace, leaving the recesses in shadow. The roofline is distant, almost invisible against the darkening sky. You lower your gaze and cross the street. On the other side, you walk a short distance and then stop again, this time beside a low wall that borders a small plaza set back from the sidewalk. The plaza is empty, its surface paved in large rectangular stones, a few benches arranged at intervals, a single tree planted in the center, its branches bare. You step closer to the wall, resting your hand on the cold stone, looking across the open space. The plaza is quiet, removed from the flow of the sidewalk by only a few feet, but the separation is enough to create a pocket of stillness. You watch the way the light from the street falls across the stones, the way the shadows of the benches stretch long and thin. A pigeon walks slowly across the far edge, pecking at something invisible, then lifts into the air and disappears over the roofline. You remain here for a while, your hands still on the wall, your breathing slow and even. The air is cooler now. You feel it against your face, your neck, the backs of your hands. It carries the faint scent of exhaust, of rain-damp stone, of something cooking in a restaurant somewhere nearby. The scent shifts and fades, replaced by the cleaner smell of cold air moving between buildings. You step away from the wall and return to the sidewalk. Your path continues along the avenue, block after block, each one similar to the last. The rhythm becomes familiar: walk, pause at the corner, cross, walk again. You do not hurry. You do not count the blocks. You simply move through them, letting the repetition settle into something calming, something grounding. You pass a newsstand, its metal frame folded open, its shelves lined with magazines and papers, their covers bright under the single bulb hanging above. The attendant stands inside, hands in pockets, looking out at the street with the same quiet patience. You feel. You do not stop, but you glance as you pass, taking in the colors, the text, the small radio playing softly somewhere within. You reach another intersection and stop again. The crosswalk signal glows red, the lit hand symbol steady and unblinking. You stand at the edge of the curb, waiting, though no cars are coming. Around you, others wait as well, 3 figures scattered along the curb, each standing separately, each facing forward. The signal changes and you all move together, crossing in silence, your paths parallel but not intersecting. On the far side, you pause beside the entrance to a subway station. The opening in the sidewalk is bordered by a metal railing, painted green, descending into a lit stairwell below. You hear the faint rumble of a train passing beneath the street, feel the slight vibration through the pavement. Warm air rises from the opening, carrying the scent of metal and dust and the accumulated presence of thousands of people. You stand at the edge, looking down the stairs, watching a figure ascend slowly, their footsteps echoing in the enclosed space. They reach the street, glance briefly in your direction, and walk away. You do not descend. You turn and continue along the avenue. The buildings here are darker now, the evening deepening, the glow from windows becoming more pronounced against the shadowed stone and glass. You notice the way the light spills onto the sidewalk from each doorway, each lobby, each storefront, creating pools of warmth that you pass through, one after another. Between them, the darkness is deeper, the shadows longer. You stop at another corner, this one marked by a taller building than the others, its facade stretching upward in a single unbroken plane of glass. You tilt your head back, following the line of the tower as it rises, narrowing with perspective until it disappears into the darkening sky. The windows reflect the city back to itself, the lights of neighboring buildings, the pale glow of the traffic signal, the faint suggestion of clouds overhead. You watch the reflections shift as a car passes behind you, its headlights sweeping briefly across the glass. You lower your gaze and cross the street. The walk continues. You move from corner to corner, from block to block, the pattern repeating. Each intersection is both the same and different. The width of the crosswalk, very slightly. The buildings on each corner shift in height and material in the way the light falls across their surfaces. But the rhythm remains constant: walk, pause, cross, walk. You pass another plaza larger than the first, its center occupied by a fountain, though no water runs. The basin is dry, its interior lined with leaves that have blown in and settled, their edges curled and darkened. You walk along the edge of the plaza, your hand trailing briefly along the low stone wall that borders it. The stone is cold, smooth, polished by years of hands and weather. You reach the far corner and stop again. Here you notice the way the avenue extends ahead, the buildings lining both sides, the street narrowing with distance until the far blocks blur together into a single line of light. You cannot see the end. The city simply continues, folding into itself, layered and endless. You turn slightly, looking back the way you came. The avenue behind you is the same. Buildings rising, lights glowing, the pavement stretching away into the distance. You cannot see where you started. The repetition has erased any sense of origin. You are simply here within the city, surrounded by its scale, held by its steadiness. You breathe in and the air is cool and clean. You notice the sound again, the low hum of traffic, the faint murmur of voices from somewhere nearby, the distant wail of a siren, softened by distance, rising and fading. The sounds do not intrude. They exist as texture, as the ambient presence of the city continuing around you. You walk a few more steps and stop beside a mailbox, its blue paint chipped and faded. You rest your hand on its cold metal surface, looking across the street at the building opposite. Its facade is brick, older than the glass towers nearby, its windows smaller, framed by stone lintels. A light goes on in one of the windows, and you watch as a figure moves past, visible for only a moment before disappearing deeper into the room. You remain here, standing, your hand still on the mailbox, your eyes tracing the details of the building, the texture of the brick, the way the mortar has darkened with age, the iron brackets supporting a small balcony on the third floor. You do not think about what you are seeing. You simply see it. The evening deepens around you. The sky is darker now, the residual glow almost gone, replaced by the full presence of night. The street lamps seem brighter, their circles of light more defined, the shadows between them deeper. You step away from the mailbox and continue walking, your pace unchanged, your path following the avenue as it extends northward, block after block, corner after corner. You do not look for an ending. You do not measure progress. You simply walk, pausing when the moment calls for it, crossing when the light changes, standing when stillness feels right. The city holds you, vast and calm, its repetition no longer something to move through but something to rest within. You reach another corner and you stop, and the walk continues. You turn from the avenue and walk slowly toward the glow. It begins as a suggestion, a brightening in the air ahead, a shift in the quality of light that filters between the buildings. You do not see the source yet. You see only the effect, the way the darkness thins, the way the shadows retreat, the way the glass facades around you begin to reflect something beyond the amber of street lamps. You continue walking, your pace unchanged, allowing the light to grow gradually, block by block. The buildings here are taller, their ground floors occupied by larger storefronts, their entrances wider, their windows extending higher. You pass beneath their lit signs, beneath the glowing letters mounted above doorways, beneath the electronic screens that have begun to appear, small at first, then larger. You do not look directly at them. You let them exist in your peripheral vision, their brightness washing over you as you walk. You reach the corner where the avenue meets the square and you stop. You do not step forward into the open space. You remain here at the edge, standing beside the corner of a building, your shoulder near the cool stone. From this position, you can see the square stretching away to your left, but you are not within it. You are beside it, adjacent to it, observing from a place that still feels separate. The light is different here. It is not the warm amber of street lamps or the soft gold of windows. It is brighter, whiter, tinged with blue and red and green, shifting constantly as the screens above cycle through their content. The light spills downward, washing over the pavement, over the figures moving through the space, over the metal barriers and the planters and the low concrete bollards that line the pedestrian areas. Everything is illuminated, but the brightness feels softened somehow, diffused by the cool evening air, by the slight mist that hangs at the edges of your vision. You stand still, watching. The square is not crowded at this hour. There are people, but they move in small clusters scattered across the space, their figures distinct rather than merged into a mass. You watch them drift from one side to the other, pausing to look upward, then moving on. Their pace is slow, unhurried, matching the rhythm you have carried with you. No one is running. No one is shouting. The energy here is present but muted, held at a distance by the coolness of the evening, by the vastness of the space itself. You look upward. The buildings surrounding the square rise on all sides, their facades covered almost entirely in screens, massive rectangles of light stacked one above another, wrapping around corners, extending upward for stories at a time. They display images, text, movement, color. You do not try to read them. You do not try to follow the narratives they present. You simply see them as shapes of light, as shifting patterns, as brightness against the dark sky above. The sky itself is invisible here, washed out by the accumulated glow. You cannot tell if there are clouds. You cannot see the faint, deep blue you noticed earlier. There is only the screens, and above them, a pale emptiness. You lower your gaze and look across the square again. The pavement is smooth, marked by painted lines and crosswalks, by the worn paths where feet have passed most often. You notice the way the light reflects off the surface, creating soft halos around each figure, around each cluster of people standing and sitting and moving. The reflections are not sharp. They blur at the edges, merging with the shadows that still exist in the spaces between the brightest areas of light. You remain here for a long time, your breathing slow, your hands still. A group of 3 people walks past you, close enough that you hear the murmur of their conversation, though you cannot make out the words. They pause just beyond where you stand, and one of them lifts a phone, angling it toward the screens above. The screen of the phone glows pale in their hands, a small rectangle of light echoing the larger ones overhead. They lower the phone and continue walking, disappearing into the square. You step away from the corner and walk along the edge, following the sidewalk that borders the pedestrian space. You do not enter. You keep to the perimeter, moving slowly, your eyes drifting from the square to the buildings to the figures moving within. The storefronts here are bright, their interiors flooded with white light, their windows displaying clothing, electronics, cosmetics. You pass each one, glancing in, seeing the racks and shelves and counters, seeing the few customers inside, seeing the employees standing behind registers, waiting. You reach another corner and stop again. From here, the angle is different. The square opens more fully before you, stretching northward, the screens visible on both sides now, facing each other across the open space. The light from one side meets the light from the other, layering, overlapping, creating a brightness that feels almost tangible, as if the air itself has thickened with it. You stand here, watching the way the light shifts. One screen fades from blue to white. Another cycles through a series of images, faces, products, landscapes, each appearing for only a few seconds before dissolving into the next. A third displays text, large letters scrolling slowly from right to left, their meaning irrelevant, their movement hypnotic. You do not focus on any single screen. You let them all exist together, a constellation of light and motion. Below, the figures continue their slow movement. A couple sits on one of the red metal bleachers installed in the center of the space, their forms small beneath the towering screens. They are not speaking. They are simply sitting, looking upward, their faces illuminated by the glow. You watch them for a while, then let your gaze drift elsewhere. A vendor pushes a cart slowly along the far edge of the square, the cart's metal frame catching the light. You hear the faint rattle of its wheels over the pavement, a soft metallic sound that carries across the space. The vendor stops, adjusts something on the cart, then continues. You walk farther along the edge, your path curving slightly as the sidewalk follows the contour of the square. You pass a narrow gap between two buildings, a side street that extends away from the brightness, back into the dimmer corridors of the city. You pause at the opening, looking down the street. The contrast is immediate. The light here is amber again, softer, the shadows deeper. The buildings lining the street are shorter, older, their facades brick and stone rather than glass and steel. You can see the end of the block, see the traffic light glowing red in the distance. You do not turn down the street. You remain at the edge of the square, held by its brightness, by its scale. You continue walking and stop again, this time beside a planter filled with small shrubs, their leaves dark and glossy, reflecting the light from above. You rest your hand on the planter's edge, feeling the cold concrete, looking out across the square from this new position. The view is similar, but the details have shifted. The screens visible from here are different, taller, narrower, displaying different content. One shows a field of stars slowly rotating, infinite. Another shows a waterfall, the water cascading in a loop that repeats seamlessly. The images are enormous, larger than the buildings they adorn, and yet they feel distant, removed, as if they exist on a plane separate from the street below. You watch the waterfall for a long time, its motion constant, soothing in its repetition. A bus passes on the street behind you, its engine rumbling low, its brakes hissing as it slows for a stoplight. You do not turn to look. You keep your eyes on the square, on the figures moving through it, on the light spilling endlessly from above. You notice the way the brightness creates its own weather. The air feels warmer here, not from temperature but from the density of light, the way it presses against your skin, against your eyes. You blink and the afterimages linger, soft rectangles of color floating in your vision before fading. You step away from the planter and walk to another corner, this one farther north. Here, the square begins to narrow, funneling back into the regular grid of streets and avenues. The screens are still present, still bright, but the space feels more contained, less open. You stop beside a traffic barrier, a low metal frame painted yellow, and you rest your hand on it, looking back toward the center of the square. From this distance, the brightness is softer, less immediate. The screens are visible but smaller, their light diffused by the space between you and them. The figures in the square are smaller too, indistinct, their movements simplified into slow drifting shapes. You cannot hear individual sounds anymore. The noise has merged into a single low hum. Voices, traffic, the faint electronic tones from the screens, all blending together into a texture that feels almost like silence. You remain here, your hand on the barrier, your breathing slow and even. The evening has deepened further. The sky, where you can see it beyond the glow, is fully dark now, a deep black that presses down from above. The contrast makes the square feel even brighter, a pool of light carved out of the surrounding darkness. You do not think of it as unnatural. You simply see it as it is, a place where light has gathered, where it reflects and refracts and spills outward, where the city has concentrated its glow. You turn slightly, looking down the avenue that extends away from the square. The street is quieter here, the brightness fading with each block, the buildings returning to their regular rhythm of lit windows and darkened facades. You can see the progression, bright, less bright, dim, distant. The city folding back into its usual state, the square an exception, a moment of intensity within the larger calm. You look back toward the square once more. A figure crosses from one side to the other, their path diagonal, unhurried. They pause in the center, turning slowly, looking upward at the screen surrounding them. They remain there for a long moment, then continue, disappearing into the far edge of the space. You watch the place where they stood, now empty, the light still falling there, unchanged by their presence or absence. You step away from the barrier and walk along the edge again, retracing part of your path, seeing the square from angles you have already seen but finding them different now, changed by the passage of time, by the shift in the content of the screens, by the movement of the figures within. You stop beside a building entrance, its glass doors reflecting the entire square, compressing it into a single flat image. You see the screens, the people, the light, all layered together, distorted slightly by the curve of the glass. You see yourself standing at the edge, a small figure among the reflections, present but not central. You remain here, watching the reflection, watching the square through the glass rather than directly. The distance this creates feels intentional, appropriate. You are here, but you are also a part, observing without immersing, present without being consumed. The brightness exists and you exist beside it, and the space between is comfortable, necessary. You breathe in and the air is cool despite the light. You breathe out and the square continues, unchanging, patient, its brightness spilling endlessly into the night. You do not move yet. You stand here at the edge, letting the moment expand, letting the light wash over you, letting the city hold you in its glow. And you remain watching still. You turn from the street and pass beneath the stone archway, and the city begins to recede. The transition is not immediate. You still hear the traffic behind you, the low hum of engines, the occasional horn softened by distance. You still see the glow of street lamps through the trees, their light filtering between branches, casting faint patterns on the path ahead. But something has shifted. The air feels different, cooler, denser, carrying the scent of earth and leaves and water somewhere nearby. The pavement beneath your feet has changed from concrete to something smoother, darker, a paved path that curves gently into the park. You walk slowly, following the path as it bends to the left. The trees rise on both sides, their trunks dark, their branches bare and intricate against the night sky. You cannot see their tops. They disappear into the darkness above, merging with the sky, creating a canopy of shadow. The path is lit at intervals by lamps, old-fashioned fixtures mounted on tall posts, their light warm and dim, casting small circles of amber onto the pavement. Between the lamps, the darkness deepens and you move through these darker stretches slowly, your eyes adjusting, your other senses heightening. You stop after a short distance. Here the path widens slightly, opening into a small clearing where several paths meet. A bench sits at the edge, facing inward toward the junction. You approach it and sit down, feeling the cold wood through your clothes, the armrest solid beneath your hand. You settle into stillness, your breathing slowing, your body relaxing into the seat. From here, you can see the paths extending in 3 directions, each one curving away into the trees, each one lit by the same dim lamps, each one empty. The park is quiet, not silent but quiet in a way that feels intentional, preserved. You hear the faint rustle of leaves though the air is still. You hear the distant sound of the city, muted, abstract, a low frequency that exists at the edge of perception. You hear your own breath, steady and calm. You remain on the bench for a long time. A figure appears on one of the paths, walking slowly, their shape indistinct in the dim light. They pass through one circle of lamplight, then another, their footsteps soft, barely audible. They do not look in your direction. They continue along the path and disappear around a curve, and the paths are empty again. You stand and begin walking once more. The path you choose slopes gently downward, and you feel the shift in your stride, the slight pull of gravity. The trees press closer here, their trunks thicker, their roots visible at the edges of the path, breaking through the pavement in places. You step carefully, your eyes tracing the uneven surface, the way the lamplight catches the raised edges of the roots, leaving the spaces between in shadow. You pass a lamppost and stop beside it, resting your hand on the cold metal. The post is old, its surface textured, painted many times, the layers visible where the paint has chipped away. You feel the roughness beneath your palm, the coolness seeping into your skin. Above, the lamp glows steadily, its light contained by a glass fixture, yellowed slightly with age. Moths circle the light, small and pale, their movements erratic, silent. You look out into the darkness beyond the path. The ground falls away slightly, covered in low undergrowth, the shapes of bushes and small plants barely visible. Beyond them, you see the trunks of trees, standing at intervals, their bark dark and textured. You cannot see far. The darkness is complete after only a few meters, a wall of shadow that the lamplight cannot penetrate. You do not feel uneasy. The darkness feels natural, appropriate, a part of the park's nighttime presence. You continue walking, leaving the lamppost behind. The path curves to the right and you follow it, your pace slow, your attention drifting from the pavement to the trees to the sky visible in fragments above. The sky is lighter than the trees, a deep gray rather than black, and you see the silhouettes of branches crossing and recrossing, creating patterns that shift as you move. Ahead, you hear water. It is a soft sound, rhythmic, the gentle movement of a stream or a small fountain. You walk toward it and the sound grows clearer, more defined. The path descends a few steps, stone risers worn smooth, and opens into a wider area where a low stone wall borders a small pond. You approach the wall and stop, resting both hands on the cold stone, looking out over the water. The surface is dark, reflecting the faint light from the lamps along the path. You see the trees reflected there upside down, their branches hanging into the water, and you see the lamp nearest you, its warm glow duplicated in the still surface. The reflection wavers slightly, disturbed by the faint movement of the water, by the ripples created by something unseen, a breeze perhaps, or a small creature beneath the surface. You stand here for a long time, watching the water, watching the reflections shift and settle. The air is colder near the water. You feel it against your face, your hands, the dampness carried on the faint movement of air. You breathe in and the scent is clean, earthy, tinged with the mineral smell of stone and water. You breathe out and your breath is visible for a moment, pale against the darkness. A sound reaches you from somewhere across the pond. A faint splash, brief, then silence again. You do not see its source. The far side of the pond is lost in darkness, the lamps too distant to reach it. You listen, waiting for the sound to repeat, but it does not. The water returns to its gentle, constant motion. You step away from the wall and walk along the path that borders the pond. Your footsteps are soft, nearly silent on the smooth pavement. The lamps here are spaced farther apart and you move through longer stretches of darkness, your eyes adjusting, your pace slowing further. You can still see the path, a lighter strip of gray against the darker ground, but the details are obscured. You rely on the feel of the pavement beneath your feet, the solid, even surface that guides you forward. You reach another bench and sit down. This one faces the pond, angled slightly so that you can see the water and the path and the trees beyond. You settle into the seat, your hands resting in your lap, your body still. The cold seeps through the wood, but you do not mind. You let it ground you, anchor you in this place, in this moment. You sit without moving, listening. The city sounds have faded almost entirely. You hear only the faintest suggestion of traffic, a low murmur that could be mistaken for wind or distant water. Closer, you hear the rustle of something moving through the undergrowth, small, quick, then still. You hear the creak of a branch, the faint call of a bird, brief and solitary. You hear the water, always the water, its gentle movement, a constant presence beneath everything else. Time softens here. You do not count the minutes. You do not measure your stillness against any expectation. You simply sit, breathing, present, allowing the park to hold you in its quiet. A breeze moves through the trees and you feel it against your face, cool and clean. The branches above you shift, their silhouettes moving against the lighter sky. The sound is soft, a whisper of leaves and wood, and then the breeze passes and the stillness returns. You stand and begin walking again. The path leads you away from the pond, climbing gently upward, the trees thinning slightly, the lamps appearing more frequently. You pass beneath one, then another, your shadow stretching and shortening, shifting as you move. You notice the way the light falls here, the way it creates pockets of warmth within the larger darkness, small sanctuaries of visibility. You stop at a place where the path forks. Two directions, both curving away into the trees, both lit by the same dim lamps, both equally inviting, equally quiet. You do not deliberate. You choose the path to the left and continue, your steps carrying you deeper into the park, farther from the entrance, farther from the streets beyond. The air grows cooler still. You feel it on your skin, the dampness settling, the night deepening. You pass a stone bridge, narrow and arched, spanning a dry stream bed below. You pause at the center of the bridge, looking down into the shadows, seeing the smooth stones that line the bottom, the fallen leaves gathered in drifts along the edges. The bridge is empty except for you. The stones are cold beneath your hands as you rest them on the low wall. You remain here looking down, then looking up at the trees on the far side, then back along the path you have walked. The park stretches in all directions, unseen but felt, a vast enclosed space within the city, separate but not removed. You are alone, but you do not feel isolated. The presence of the park itself is enough. The trees, the paths, the water, the darkness, the quiet. You leave the bridge and continue walking, your pace unchanged, your path winding through the trees, past benches and lampposts and junctions where other paths meet and diverge. You do not try to map your route. You do not orient yourself toward an exit. You simply walk, letting the park guide you, letting the paths unfold before you. You stop once more, this time beside a wide meadow, its expanse open and dark, the grass invisible except as a texture, a different quality of shadow. The lamps here are distant, placed at the edges, their light reaching only the first few meters of the meadow, leaving the center in complete darkness. You stand at the edge, looking out into that darkness, feeling the openness, the absence of trees, the way the air moves more freely here. You do not enter the meadow. You remain at its edge, observing, breathing the cool air, listening to the silence that is not quite silence. The faint hum of the city beyond the trees, the rustle of something small and unseen, the movement of air across open ground. You stand here until the stillness feels complete, until the park has fully settled around you, until you are no longer arriving but simply present, held within its quiet, its darkness, its gentle, patient embrace. And you remain, standing, listening, part of the night. You find a bench near the edge of a wide path and sit down, and the night holds you. The darkness is complete now, the deepest part of the night. The hours when the city itself seems to rest. The lamps along the path glow steadily, their circles of light unchanging, and beyond them the shadows are thick, impenetrable. You settle into the bench, your hands resting on your knees, your breathing slow and even. The wood is cold beneath you, solid, unmoving. You do not expect to leave soon. The air is still. You feel it against your face, cool and damp, carrying no scent but its own. The clean, neutral smell of night air, of trees and earth and distance. Your breath forms pale clouds that dissipate quickly, vanishing into the larger darkness. You watch them appear and fade, a rhythm that becomes meditative, grounding. The park is nearly silent. You hear the faint rustle of something moving through the undergrowth, too distant to identify. You hear the low hum of the city, reduced now to its barest presence, a frequency so low it is almost felt rather than heard. You hear the occasional creak of a branch, the settling of wood, the quiet sounds of the park breathing in the darkness. No voices, no footsteps. You are alone here, or alone enough that the distinction no longer matters. You sit without moving, and time begins to soften. Minutes pass, or perhaps longer. You do not check. You do not count. You simply remain, your body still, your mind quiet, your attention resting lightly on the darkness around you. The lamplight nearest you flickers once, so briefly you might have imagined it, then returns to its steady glow. You watch it for a while, then let your gaze drift elsewhere, to the path, to the trees, to the shadows that fill the spaces between. Nothing changes, and yet everything is changing. You do not notice it at first. The darkness remains, the lamps remain, the stillness remains. But somewhere, invisibly, imperceptibly, the night has begun its slow retreat. You cannot point to a moment when it started. You cannot say what has shifted, but you feel it, a subtle easing, a loosening of the darkness at its edges. You stand and walk a short distance, then stop. The path stretches ahead, curving gently to the right, disappearing into the trees. It looks the same as it did before. The lamps cast the same amber light, the shadows fall in the same places. But the quality of the darkness has changed just slightly. It is no longer absolute. It has texture now, depth, as if the air itself has thinned, allowing something beyond to press faintly through. You walk back to the bench and sit down again. The cold seeps through your clothes, deeper now, settling into your body. You do not mind. The cold is clarifying, sharpening your awareness, keeping you present. You pull your hands into your sleeves and rest them in your lap, and you watch the path, the trees, the sky visible in fragments above. The sky. You look up, tilting your head back, and you see that the darkness there has changed. It is no longer the deep, solid black of full night. It is softer now, lighter, a charcoal gray that holds the faintest suggestion of something beyond. You cannot see stars. You have not seen stars since you entered the city. But the sky is no longer opaque. It is becoming translucent, thinning, preparing to reveal what lies behind. You lower your gaze and wait. The lamps along the path are still necessary. Their light is still the only illumination, the only source of visibility, but they no longer dominate the darkness. They exist within it now rather than against it, their glow softened by the gradual lightening of the air around them. A bird calls somewhere distant, a single clear note that cuts through the silence and fades. You remain still, listening, waiting for the sound to repeat. It does not. The silence returns, but it feels different now, less complete, less sealed. The night is opening slowly, allowing the first sounds of morning to enter. You stand again and walk to the edge of the path, stopping beside a tree. The trunk is wide, its bark rough and deeply textured. You rest your hand against it, feeling the cold, the solidity, the ridges and grooves worn by years and weather. You look up into the branches, seeing them more clearly now than you could before. They are still dark, but their edges are beginning to separate from the sky, no longer merged into a single mass of shadow. You can trace individual branches, follow their paths as they extend and divide and taper into smaller and smaller shapes. You step back onto the path and walk slowly forward. Your footsteps are soft, the only sound in the immediate space around you. You pass one lamp, then another, moving through the pools of light, through the stretches of diminishing shadow between. The path is still empty. You have not seen another person in what feels like hours. The park belongs to this moment, to this transition, and you belong to the park. You reach a place where the path opens onto a small overlook, a paved area with a low wall bordering a slope that descends into the trees below. You approach the wall and rest your hands on it, looking out. The darkness below is still deep, the trees still shadowed, but the horizon, where you can see it between the buildings that rise beyond the park, is no longer black. It is gray, a pale, neutral gray that holds no warmth yet, no color, but is unmistakably lighter than what came before. The change is so gradual that you cannot say when it began, but it is undeniable now. The night is ending. You remain at the wall, watching. The air grows colder paradoxically as the light begins to return. You feel it settling into the low places, pooling around your feet, your legs. You breathe in and the air is sharp, clean, almost painful in its clarity. You breathe out and the vapor hangs longer now, more visible against the lightening sky. Another bird calls, closer this time, and then another farther away. The sounds do not overlap. They exist separately, punctuating the silence rather than filling it. You listen to each one, waiting for the next, noticing the pauses between. You turn and walk back along the path, retracing your steps. The bench where you sat before is still there, unchanged, patient. You sit down again, resuming your place, your hands in your lap, your eyes on the path ahead. The lamplight is softer now, less necessary. The path is visible even in the spaces between lamps, the pavement a lighter gray than the earth and grass beside it. You sit and the light continues to grow. It does not arrive suddenly. There is no moment when darkness becomes day. There is only the slow, steady accumulation of light, first in the sky, then reflected in the trees, then reaching down to touch the ground, the path, the bench where you sit. The shadows do not disappear. They retreat slowly, pulling back into the spaces beneath bushes, beneath benches, into the deeper recesses of the trees. The lamps along the path are still lit, but they have lost their authority. They glow pale and unnecessary, their light overwhelmed by the growing brightness of the sky. You watch as they become decorative rather than functional, their circles of amber light fading into the larger illumination that now fills the park. The sky above is no longer gray. It has taken on a faint wash of color, pale blue, almost white, so subtle you might not notice if you had not been watching. The blue deepens slowly, imperceptibly, spreading from the east, pushing the gray westward, claiming the sky piece by piece. You do not see the sun. It is still below the horizon, hidden behind the buildings beyond the park. But its presence is undeniable, its light spilling upward and outward, transforming everything. You stand and walk again, and the park is different now. The trees are no longer silhouettes. They have dimension, texture, individuality. You see the variations in their bark, the way some trunks are smooth and others rough, the way the branches fork and curve. You see the undergrowth more clearly, the low shrubs, the patches of grass, the scattered leaves left from autumn. Everything that was hidden is now revealed gently, without drama. You reach the pond and stop at the stone wall. The water is lighter now, reflecting the pale sky, no longer black but a soft gray blue. You see the ripples more clearly, the gentle movement across the surface, the way the reflections of trees shimmer and break and reform. A duck glides across the far edge, its shape dark against the lighter water, moving slowly, purposefully, leaving a V-shaped wake behind it. You watch the duck until it disappears behind a small island of reeds, and then you watch the water where it was, and then you simply watch the water. The cold is deeper now, but the light is spreading, and with it comes a subtle shift in temperature. The air is no longer dropping. It has reached its lowest point and is beginning, imperceptibly, to rise. You feel it in the way the dampness lifts slightly, in the way the breeze, when it comes, no longer cuts but merely cools. You turn from the pond and walk back toward the center of the park. The paths are still empty, but they will not be for much longer. The city is waking slowly, and soon others will come. Joggers, early walkers, those who cannot sleep, those who rise before dawn. But for now, the park is still yours, still suspended in this liminal space between night and morning, still held in the quiet that precedes activity. You find another bench, this one facing east, and you sit down. The sky before you is brighter now, the blue deeper, the pale wash of color spreading across the entire visible expanse. The buildings beyond the park are beginning to catch the light, their upper floors glowing faintly, their windows reflecting the growing brightness. You watch as the light descends, floor by floor, until it reaches the street, until the city itself is illuminated. And you sit, breathing, watching, as the night releases its hold and the morning arrives, gentle and unhurried, like everything else in this long, quiet passage through the city. You leave the park and step back onto the street, and the city is waking quietly around you. The air is cooler here than it was beneath the trees, moving more freely between the buildings, carrying the faint smell of exhaust and rain-damp pavement. The sky has brightened further, the blue deepening overhead, though the sun itself is still hidden behind the towers to the east. The light it casts is indirect, diffused, washing over the buildings in soft, even tones. The street lamps are still lit, but their glow is faint now, barely visible, waiting to be switched off. You walk slowly along the sidewalk, your hands in your pockets, your breath visible in the cool air. The street is nearly empty. A single car passes, moving slowly, its tires hissing softly over the damp pavement. A delivery truck idles at the curb farther ahead, its engine rumbling low, its driver nowhere visible. You pass a storefront with its metal gate still pulled down, then another, then a third. Most of the city is still closed, still resting, but there are signs of movement. A light on in an upper window, a door propped open at the back of a building, the faint sound of voices somewhere distant. You reach a corner and pause, looking both ways along the cross street. To your left, the street extends into shadow, the buildings there still untouched by direct light. To your right, the light is stronger, reflecting off the glass facades, brightening the pavement. You turn right and continue, drawn toward the light without thought, without intention. The buildings here are shorter, older, their facades brick and stone rather than steel and glass. You notice the details as you pass, the carved lintels above doorways, the narrow balconies with iron railings, the window boxes empty now, waiting for spring. The sidewalk is uneven, the pavement cracked in places, the edges worn smooth by years of footsteps. Ahead, you see a cafe. Its windows glow warm and golden, the light spilling out onto the sidewalk, pooling there like something tangible. The door is glass, framed in dark wood, and through it you can see the interior, small, narrow, lined with shelves and a long counter. A figure moves behind the counter, their shape indistinct through the glass, their movements slow and methodical. You approach the door and pause, your hand on the cool metal handle. Through the window beside the door, you see a few small tables, each one accompanied by 2 chairs. One table is occupied. A single person sitting with their back to the window, a cup before them, a phone in their hands. The other tables are empty. The space feels quiet, contained, separated from the street by only a thin pane of glass but feeling worlds apart. You open the door and step inside. The warmth touches you immediately, wrapping around you, a stark contrast to the cool air outside. You feel it on your face, your hands, seeping slowly into your body. The door closes behind you, soft and soundless, and the noise of the street, already minimal, disappears entirely. The cafe smells of coffee, of something baking, of warmth itself. The scent is rich, enveloping, almost visible in the golden light that fills the space. You stand just inside the door for a moment, letting your eyes adjust, letting the warmth settle over you. The person behind the counter looks up and nods, a small acknowledgement, then returns to their work. You approach the counter slowly, your footsteps muted by the worn wooden floor. The counter is wood as well, dark and smooth, polished by years of hands and cleaning. Behind it, shelves hold rows of cups and glasses, and above them a chalkboard menu written in neat, unhurried script. You order quietly, your voice low, and the person nods again, turning to the machines behind them. The espresso machine hisses and steams, a sharp sound that fills the small space for a moment before fatting. You hear the clink of porcelain, the soft rush of liquid being poured, the gentle tap of a spoon against the rim of a cup. The sounds are precise, deliberate, part of a routine performed countless times. The person slides a cup across the counter and you take it, feeling the warmth through the ceramic, feeling the weight of it in your hands. You nod your thanks and turn toward the tables. You choose the one farthest from the door against the wall, where you can see both the interior of the cafe and the street outside through the large front window. You sit down slowly, setting the cup on the table, wrapping both hands around it, letting the heat seep into your palms. The cafe is quiet. The person at the other table has not moved. Their phone glows softly in their hands, and they are still, absorbed, present in their own solitude. The person behind the counter moves occasionally, wiping surfaces, adjusting items on shelves, but their movements are unhurried, almost meditative. There is no music. There are no voices. There is only the faint hum of the refrigerator, the occasional hiss of the espresso machine, the quiet settling of the space around you. You lift the cup and drink. The coffee is hot, almost too hot, but you do not pull away. You let it warm your mouth, your throat, spreading through your chest as you swallow. The taste is rich, slightly bitter, grounding. You set the cup down and watch the steam rise from its surface, pale and thin, drifting upward before dissipating into the warmer air of the cafe. You look out the window. The street is brighter now. The sun has climbed higher, though you still cannot see it directly. Its light falls across the buildings opposite, illuminating their upper floors, their windows catching the glow and reflecting it back. The pavement is lighter too, the dampness beginning to evaporate, the darker patches shrinking slowly. A figure walks past outside, their pace brisk, their hands holding a bag close to their chest. They disappear from view and the street is empty again. You remain at the table, your hands around the cup, your breathing slow and even. Time softens here, inside the warmth, inside the quiet. You do not count the minutes. You do not feel the passage of time as something linear, something moving forward. You feel it as depth, as accumulation, as the gentle layering of moments one upon another. You drink slowly, letting the coffee cool slightly between each sip, letting the cup warm your hands, letting the cafe hold you in its stillness. The person at the other table stands, pockets their phone, and walks to the door. The door opens, admitting a brief rush of cool air, then closes again. The cafe is emptier now, quieter, but the feeling does not change. The warmth remains, the light remains, the stillness remains. You finish your coffee and sit with the empty cup, your hands still wrapped around it, feeling the residual heat. Eventually, you stand. You leave the cup on the table and walk to the door, nodding to the person behind the counter as you pass. They nod back, their expression calm, neutral, kind. You push open the door and step back onto the street. The cold returns, but it is less severe now. The day is warming imperceptibly, degree by degree. The sky is fully bright, the blue deep and clear, and the sun has climbed high enough that its light reaches the street, warming the pavement, drying the last traces of moisture. You walk a short distance and stop, standing beside a building entrance, your back against the cool stone. You watch the street, watching the light, watching the slow emergence of the city into its day. Another person passes, then another, their numbers increasing gradually, the morning revealing itself in increments. A shop gate begins to rise, the metal rattling softly as it rolls upward. A bus passes, nearly empty, its windows reflecting the sky. You remain here for a while, then continue walking. The street curves gently and you follow it, passing more storefronts, more doorways, more windows catching the light. You pass another cafe, smaller than the first, its interior dimly lit, a few figures visible inside. You do not enter. You continue, letting your path unfold without direction, without destination. You reach a small park, no more than a widened section of sidewalk bordered by low iron fencing, a few benches arranged beneath a single tree. You enter through the open gate and sit on one of the benches. The wood is cold but dry, and you settle into it, your hands in your lap, your eyes on the street beyond the fence. The city is waking more fully now. The sounds are more frequent, cars, voices, the distant clatter of something being unloaded from a truck. But here, within the small enclosure of the park, the noise is softened, held at a slight remove. You sit without urgency, without expectation. The light continues to grow, the shadows continue to retreat, and the morning continues its slow, unhurried arrival. You breathe in the cool air, you feel the warmth beginning to touch your face, and you watch as the city, patient and vast, opens itself to the day. And you remain sitting still, part of the quiet unfolding around you. You step from the small park and return to the avenue, and you begin to walk. The avenue stretches before you, long and straight, its length narrowing with distance until the buildings on either side converge into a single point somewhere far ahead. You do not try to see the end. You keep your eyes on the immediate distance, on the next block, the next intersection, allowing the path to reveal itself incrementally, step by step. Your pace is steady, unhurried. The pavement beneath your feet is smooth here, unbroken, and your footsteps fall into a rhythm that becomes automatic, thoughtless. Left, right, left, right. The sound is soft, absorbed almost immediately by the ambient noise of the city, the low rumble of traffic, the distant hum of voices, the mechanical sounds of a city in motion. You are one figure among many now, though the sidewalk is not crowded. Others walk ahead of you, behind you, their paths parallel to yours, all moving in the same general direction, all held within the corridor of the avenue. The buildings rise on both sides, tall and consistent in their height, their facades repeating in subtle variations. Glass, stone, brick, glass again. Windows stacked in uniform grids, floor upon floor, catching the morning light and reflecting it back onto the street. You do not look up continuously. You glance upward occasionally, taking in the height, the scale, then return your gaze to street level, to the storefronts and doorways and the figures moving past. You reach an intersection and stop at the corner. The crosswalk stretches before you, wide and white, its painted lines bright against the dark asphalt. The traffic light above glows red, the symbol of a raised hand, steady and unblinking. You stand at the edge of the curb, your hands loose at your sides, waiting. Cars pass in front of you, moving east to west, a steady stream of yellow cabs, dark sedans, delivery vans. Each one passes quickly, disappearing into the flow, replaced immediately by the next. The sound is constant, tires over pavement, engines idling and accelerating, the occasional horn muted by distance. You watch without focusing on any single vehicle. You see them as movement, as a continuous ribbon of metal and glass flowing past, unending. The light changes. The red hand disappears, replaced by the white figure of a person walking. Around you, others step forward and you move with them, crossing the wide intersection, your steps matching the pace of those beside you. The pavement is smooth underfoot, the painted lines passing beneath you at regular intervals. You reach the far side and continue without pausing, the rhythm of walking unbroken. The avenue continues, identical to the block before. More buildings, more storefronts, more windows reflecting the morning light. You notice the small variations. A different awning here, a slightly darker stone there, a tree planted at the curb, its branches bare against the sky. But the overall impression is one of repetition, of sameness, of the avenue unfolding in predictable increments. You walk another block, then stop at the next intersection. Again you stand at the corner, waiting. The light is red. The traffic flows. You watch a bus lumber past, its length extending beyond the width of a single lane, its windows mostly empty, its diesel engine rumbling low. Behind it, a cyclist weaves between cars, their figure upright and steady, their movements fluid. The light changes and you cross. The pattern repeats. Walk, stop, wait, cross. Walk, stop, wait, cross. The rhythm becomes meditative, grounding. You are not thinking about where you are going. You are simply going, allowing the avenue to carry you forward block by block, intersection by intersection. The distance you have covered is irrelevant. The distance remaining is irrelevant. There is only this: the walking, the stopping, the waiting, the crossing. You pass a woman standing at the curb, her hand raised, hailing a cab. A yellow taxi pulls over and she opens the door and steps inside. The taxi merges back into traffic and the woman is gone, absorbed into the flow of the city. You continue walking. The sun is higher now, its light falling more directly onto the street. You feel the warmth on your face, on your hands, a contrast to the cool air that still lingers in the shadows between buildings. The light creates sharp divisions, one side of the street bright and warm, the other still in shade, cool and gray. You walk on the sunny side, feeling the warmth accumulate slowly, degree by degree. You reach another intersection, and this time you do not cross immediately. The light turns green and others move forward, but you remain at the corner, standing, watching. The traffic flows. A taxi turns left, its tires squealing slightly as it accelerates. A truck moves straight through, its cargo rattling softly in its bed. A cluster of pedestrians crosses from the opposite corner, their figures small against the width of the intersection, growing larger as they approach, then passing you and continuing down the sidewalk. The light cycles through its sequence. Red, green, yellow, red again. You watch it repeat, unhurried, mechanical, constant. Eventually you cross, joining the next wave of pedestrians, your steps synchronized briefly with theirs before the group disperses, each person finding their own pace, their own rhythm. You continue walking and the avenue continues unfolding. The buildings here are slightly different, older perhaps, their facades more ornate, carved stone rather than smooth glass. You notice the details as you pass, The decorative cornices, the arched windows, the iron fire escapes clinging to the sides, their zigzag patterns casting shadows on the brick. But the overall rhythm does not change. The avenue is still the avenue, straight and long and unending. You pass a construction site, its perimeter bordered by tall plywood panels painted blue. Through a gap in the panels, you glimpse the interior, scaffolding rising several stories, piles of materials stacked on the ground, a single worker in a hard hat moving slowly across a platform. The sound of machinery is faint, distant, absorbed by the larger noise of the street. You walk past and the site disappears behind you. Another intersection. You stop. The crosswalk signal counts down, the white numbers decreasing, 12, 11, 10, marking the seconds remaining. You watch the numbers drop, and when they reach 0, the light changes and the flow stops. You cross. A man walks beside you for a moment, his pace matching yours, his presence close enough to notice but not intrusive. He is looking down at his phone, his thumb scrolling, his attention elsewhere. You reach the far curb and he turns left, disappearing down a side street. You continue straight. The avenue narrows slightly ahead, or perhaps it only appears to narrow, the buildings pressing closer together, their facades converging with perspective. You walk toward the convergence, and it recedes, always the same distance ahead, always unreachable. You stop at another corner, this one marked by a taller building, its facade entirely glass, reflecting the entire street. The buildings opposite, the traffic below, the pale blue sky above. You stand near the corner, looking up at the reflection, seeing yourself small and indistinct among the layers of reflected images. The building seems to contain the entire city within its surface, compressed and distorted, held in glass. You step back and cross the street. On this block, the sidewalk is wider, bordered by a low stone wall that separates it from a sunken plaza below street level. You walk along the edge of the wall, glancing down occasionally at the plaza, a paved space with benches and planters, mostly empty, a few figures sitting alone, scattered across the open area. The plaza is quiet, removed from the flow of the sidewalk above, a pocket of stillness within the larger movement. You continue walking and the wall ends and the sidewalk returns to its regular width. Another intersection, another stop. The light is already green, but you pause anyway, standing at the corner, letting others cross ahead of you. A cluster of schoolchildren crosses, accompanied by 2 adults, their voices high and bright, cutting through the ambient noise. They reach the far side and turn down a side street, their voices fading, absorbed by distance. You cross slowly, alone now, the crosswalk empty except for you. The avenue continues, and you continue with it, walking through the morning, through the light, through the endless repetition of blocks and intersections and buildings rising on both sides. Your legs find their rhythm, your breathing settles into a steady pattern, and the act of walking becomes something beyond intention, beyond thought. You are simply moving, one step after another, the city unfolding around you, constant and patient and vast. You pass a park on your right, a narrow green space squeezed between buildings, its trees visible above a low iron fence. You glance at it as you pass, but do not stop, do not enter. The avenue pulls you forward and you follow. Another block, another intersection, another pause. The traffic here is heavier, the noise louder, the movement faster. A steady stream of cars flows past, 3 lanes in each direction, their speed constant, their spacing precise. You watch the flow, the way one car follows another, the way the gaps between them remain consistent, as if choreographed, as if the entire avenue is a single organism, breathing in and out, moving as one. The light changes and you cross. The far side is brighter, the sun fully overhead now, its light falling without obstruction, warming the pavement, warming your shoulders, your back. You feel the weight of the light, the way it presses gently against you, wrapping you in its warmth. You walk another block, then another, the rhythm unbroken, the pattern unchanged. The avenue stretches ahead, endless and familiar, and you walk within it, part of its rhythm, part of its flow, moving forward without destination, without end, simply walking, simply present, held within the long, straight corridor of the city, patient and steady and calm. You turn from the avenue and walk toward the bridge, and the street begins to change. The buildings grow shorter, the spaces between them wider, and ahead you see the opening, the place where the dense architecture of the city gives way to sky and water and distance. The entrance to the bridge rises before you, marked by stone towers and arches, their surfaces pale and weathered, their forms massive and solid. You approach slowly, your pace unchanged, and the noise of the street begins to shift, the sound of traffic separating into distinct layers as cars move onto the roadway below and you move onto the pedestrian path above. You step onto the bridge. The path is wooden, its surface worn smooth by countless footsteps, its planks aligned lengthwise, stretching ahead in parallel lines. Your footsteps sound different here, hollow, resonant, each one audible despite the noise rising from the roadway below. The path is elevated, suspended above the traffic, bordered on both sides by metal railings and the thick cables that sweep upward toward the towers. You walk a short distance and stop. Here, you are still close to the shore, the buildings of Manhattan rising behind you, but already the perspective has changed. The city is no longer surrounding you. It is beside you now, adjacent, a solid mass of stone and glass that ends abruptly at the water's edge. You rest your hands on the railing, feeling the cold metal, the slight vibration that runs through it as traffic passes below. The river spreads before you, wide and dark, its surface moving slowly, wrinkled by wind and current. The water is not smooth. It holds texture, small waves that catch the light, shadows that drift across its surface, the occasional flash of brightness where the sun reflects directly. You watch the movement, the way the water flows downstream, carrying everything with it, patient and inexorable. The air is different here. It moves freely, unobstructed by buildings, crossing the river in long sweeps that press against your face, your body. The wind is cool, carrying the scent of water, of salt, of distance. You breathe it in, feeling it fill your lungs, clean and sharp. Your hair moves slightly, lifted by the breeze, then settling again. You remain at the railing, looking out. To your left, the Manhattan skyline rises in layers, buildings stacked behind buildings, each one visible in the clear morning light. You see the financial district, its towers clustered tightly, their glass facades catching the sun. You see the older buildings at the water's edge, their brick and stone darkened by age. You see the piers extending into the river, their structures low and industrial, functional rather than decorative. To your right, the river extends southward, widening as it approaches the harbor. You cannot see the end. The water merges with the horizon, a line of pale blue where water meets sky. A ferry crosses in the distance, small and white, its wake trailing behind it in a widening V. You turn and continue walking. The path climbs gradually, rising toward the first tower. The ascent is gentle but constant, and you feel it in your legs and your breathing. Around you, others walk as well, some moving quickly, purposefully, others stopping as you do, pausing to look, to take photographs, to simply stand. You pass a couple leaning against the railing, their heads closed together, speaking quietly. You pass a man sitting on the bench built into the side of the path, his hands wrapped around a cup of coffee, his gaze on the water. You reach the base of the first tower and stop. The tower rises directly above you now, its stone columns massive and ancient feeling, Gothic in their arches and details. The cables fan out from the top of the tower, spreading in a radiating pattern, each cable as thick as your arm, each one taut and precisely angled. You tilt your head back, following the lines upward, seeing the way they cross and recross, creating a geometry of steel and shadow against the sky. The wind is stronger here, funneled through the arches of the tower, accelerated by the narrowing space. You feel it against your face, your hands, constant and insistent. It carries sound with it, the rush of wind itself, the hum of the cables vibrating in the breeze, the muted roar of traffic below. You walk through the tower, passing beneath its arches, and emerge on the far side. Here the bridge extends ahead, the path stretching straight and level now, suspended high above the water. The second tower is visible in the distance, identical to the first, framing the path between them. You walk slowly, your hands trailing along the railing, your eyes moving from the path to the water to the sky. You stop again, midway between the towers. This is the highest point, the place where the bridge is farthest from both shores, suspended entirely above the river. You rest both hands on the railing and look down. The water is far below, its surface darker from this height, the details of its movement obscured by distance. You see boats, small white shapes moving slowly across the dark expanse, their wakes visible as pale lines trailing behind them. You see the shadow of the bridge itself, cast onto the water, a long dark stripe that moves with the sun. You look up and across toward Brooklyn. The opposite shore is closer now, its buildings lower than Manhattan's, their rooflines more varied, their colors warmer, red brick, brown stone, the occasional bright mural visible on a side wall. The waterfront there is quieter, less developed, marked by old warehouses and newer parks, the green of trees visible even from this distance. The wind gusts, stronger for a moment, and you feel the bridge move slightly beneath you. It is not alarming. It is expected, designed, the bridge responding to the forces acting upon it, wind, weight, time. The movement is subtle, a gentle sway, and then it stills again. You remain here, standing at the center, equidistant from both shores. Time softens. The noise of the traffic below becomes a constant hum, a bass line that allows other sounds to emerge. The wind, the creak of the cables, the footsteps of others passing behind you, the distant call of a gull somewhere over the water. You hear your own breathing, steady and calm, and beneath it all, the sense of the river flowing, the city breathing, the bridge holding. You turn slightly, looking back toward Manhattan. The skyline is more distant now, the buildings smaller, their details compressed by perspective. The morning light falls across the facades, illuminating some and leaving others in shadow, creating a pattern of brightness and dark that shifts slowly as the sun climbs higher. You see movement along the waterfront, Tiny figures walking, vehicles passing, the city continuing its day, indifferent to your presence here, suspended above it all. You look forward again, toward Brooklyn, and you begin walking. Your pace is slower now, more deliberate. You are in no hurry to reach the far shore. The bridge itself is the destination, the crossing the purpose. You pass beneath the second tower, feeling its shadow fall over you, cool and deep, then emerging back into the sunlight on the far side. The path begins to descend now, the angle so gradual it is almost imperceptible, but you feel it in your stride, in the slight easing of effort. The Brooklyn shore grows nearer, the buildings larger, their details more distinct. You see the streets extending inland from the waterfront, lined with trees, with brownstones, with the textures of a neighborhood rather than the density of the financial district. You stop once more. Near the end of the bridge, where the path is lower, closer to the water. From here you can see both shores, Manhattan behind you, Brooklyn ahead, and between them the bridge arcing across the river, connecting and separating simultaneously. The structure is visible in its entirety from this angle, the towers rising, the cables swooping downward in precise curves, the roadway suspended between. It is enormous and delicate at once, heavy and light, solid and graceful. You rest your hands on the railing and look down at the water one last time. The river is closer here, its surface visible in more detail. The ripples, the small eddies where currents meet, the way the light breaks and scatters across the moving surface. The water is gray-green, opaque, holding its depths hidden. It flows past the bridge pilings, dividing around them, then merging again on the far side, continuing its slow journey toward the harbor, toward the ocean beyond. A jogger passes, their footsteps quick and rhythmic on the wooden planks. A group of tourists clusters near the railing ahead, speaking in a language you do not recognize, their voices bright and animated. A cyclist moves past in the designated lane, their wheels humming over the wood, their figure leaning slightly forward, focused. You remain still, part of the bridge, part of the crossing, held in the space between. The wind continues, constant and cool, carrying the scent of water and distance. The sun continues its climb, warming the air incrementally, degree by degree. The river continues its flow, tireless and unceasing. And you stand here, breathing, watching, present in this moment, suspended above the water, above the city, held in the vast, quiet space between arrival and departure. Eventually, you step away from the railing. You turn toward the Brooklyn shore and begin walking again, your footsteps soft on the wooden planks, your pace unhurried, allowing the bridge to release you slowly, gently, back onto solid ground. But even as you descend, even as the city rises around you once more, the sense of the bridge remains. The wind, the water, the distance, the crossing held within you, part of the long, slow journey through the day. You step from the bridge and onto the Brooklyn streets, and the city softens around you. Buildings here are lower, their rooflines rarely exceeding 5 or 6 stories, their facades warmer in tone, brick mostly in shades of red and brown, with stone lintels above windows and iron railings bordering small balconies. The streets are narrower than the avenues you walked in Manhattan, less severe, their width more human in scale. Trees line the sidewalks, their branches bare but dense, creating intricate shadows on the pavement below. You walk slowly, following the street as it curves away from the bridge. The neighborhood is quieter here. The noise of traffic is present but muted, dispersed by the lower buildings, absorbed by the trees and the open spaces between structures. You hear voices more clearly, conversations carried from open doorways, the laughter of children somewhere nearby, the brief exchange between two people passing on the sidewalk. The sounds feel closer, more intimate, less abstracted by height and distance. You reach a corner and turn toward the river. The street slopes gently downward, and at its end you see water sky the opposite shore. You walk toward it, your pace unchanged, and the view expands with each step. More water, more sky, the Manhattan skyline rising across the river, clear and sharp in the late morning light. The street ends at a promenade, a wide paved path that runs along the waterfront, bordered on one side by the river and on the other by a low stone wall and a narrow park. You step onto the promenade and stop, looking out. The river is calmer here, or perhaps it only seems calmer, viewed from a different angle, from a place of stillness rather than from the moving platform of the bridge. The water is gray-green, its surface textured by wind and current, moving slowly downstream. Small waves lap against the pilings below the promenade, a soft, rhythmic sound that rises and fades, rises and fades. You walk along the promenade until you find a bench. It faces the water, angled slightly so that the view includes both the river and the skyline beyond. The wood is worn smooth, the surface cool beneath your hands as you sit down. You settle into the seat, your body relaxing, your breathing slowing. You rest your hands in your lap and look out across the water. Manhattan rises on the opposite shore, its buildings stacked and clustered, their heights varying, their facades catching the sun. The financial district is directly across from you, its towers the tallest, their glass surfaces reflecting the sky, the water, each other. Beyond and to the left, the rest of lower Manhattan extends northward, the buildings diminishing gradually, the skyline becoming less defined, merging eventually with the haze of distance. The contrast is gentle. Here on this side of the river, the world is horizontal. Low buildings, wide streets, the long expanse of the promenade stretching in both directions. There, across the water, the world is vertical, towers climbing, reaching, stacking upward into the sky. But the distance between them softens the contrast, makes it peaceful rather than jarring. The river acts as a buffer, a space of separation that allows both sides to exist without conflict. You sit without moving, watching. A ferry crosses from right to left, its white hull bright against the darker water, its wake spreading behind it in widening lines. You watch it progress across your field of vision, slow and steady, until it disappears behind a pier on the far shore. The wake remains visible for a while longer, the lines gradually smoothing, merging back into the larger motion of the river. The wind moves across the water, cool and constant, carrying the scent of salt and distance. You feel it against your face, your hands, the same wind that moved across the bridge, following the river, unobstructed by the buildings that rise on either side. You remain on the bench for a long time. Around you, others move along the promenade, joggers passing in steady rhythm, parents pushing strollers, couples walking hand in hand, individuals like yourself sitting on benches, standing at the railing looking out. But the space is wide enough, open enough, that no one feels crowded. Each person occupies their own pocket of stillness within the larger movement. A cyclist passes, their wheels humming softly on the smooth pavement. A dog trots past, its owner walking behind, their pace relaxed, unhurried. The sounds are brief, temporary, absorbed quickly by the openness of the space, by the sound of the water, by the wind. You look down at the river directly below. The water meets the stone wall in a narrow band of darker stone, discolored by years of contact with the water. You see the ripples moving along the edge, the way they break against the wall and reflect back, creating patterns of interference, of crossing waves. The motion is hypnotic, repetitive, endless. You lift your gaze again, looking across to Manhattan. The light has changed slightly. The sun is higher now, almost directly overhead, and the shadows cast by the buildings are shorter, falling differently across the facades. Windows that were in shadow are now illuminated, and others that were bright have dulled. The skyline is the same but different, transformed subtly by the passage of time, by the movement of light. You stand and walk along the promenade. Your steps are slow, your path wandering slightly, drifting toward the railing and then back toward the park side. You pass another bench and consider stopping, but continue instead, allowing the movement to carry you a little farther. The promenade extends in both directions, curving gently to follow the contour of the shore, and you walk without counting distance, without marking progress. You reach a wider section where the promenade opens into a small plaza, paved in smooth concrete, bordered by planters filled with dormant plants. A few people sit on the low stone edges of the planters, eating lunch from paper bags, their faces tilted toward the sun. You walk to the far edge of the plaza and stop at the railing, looking out once more. From here, the angle has shifted. You see more of the southern tip of Manhattan, the buildings there smaller, older, the structures closer to the water. You see the ferry terminals, the docks, the movement of boats coming and going. The harbor is visible beyond, opening into the wider expanse of the bay, the distance hazy and indistinct. You remain at the railing, your hands resting on the cold metal, your body still. A gull lands on the railing a few meters away, its feathers gray and white, its eyes dark and alert. It stands motionless for a moment, then lifts into the air with a single wing beat, gliding low over the water before rising again, carried by the wind. You watch it disappear downstream, a small shape against the larger backdrop of water and sky. You turn and walk back the way you came, retracing your path along the promenade. The bench where you sat before is still empty, and you return to it, sitting down again in the same place, the wood familiar now, the view unchanged. You settle in, your breathing slowing, your body relaxing into the seat. The sun is warm on your face, your shoulders, a gentle warmth that contrasts with the coolness of the wind. You sit without thought, without intention. Your mind does not wander toward plans or memories. It rests here in this moment, held by the view, by the sound of the water, by the steady presence of the city across the river. The skyline is simply there, solid and patient, requiring nothing of you, offering itself as a point of focus, a place for your gaze to rest. Time passes, unmarked and unmeasured. The ferry returns, crossing from left to right this time, retracing its path, its white hull bright against the water. You watch it without following its entire journey, letting it move through your field of vision, present and then absent. The river continues its flow, the wind continues its movement, the light continues its slow progression across the sky. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the warmth of the sun, the coolness of the wind, the solidity of the bench beneath you. The sounds reach you, the water against the wall, the murmur of voices somewhere nearby, the distant hum of the city, softened by distance by the buffer of the river. You open your eyes and the view is still there, unchanged, patient. You remain on the bench, sitting, breathing, present in the quiet space between the two shores, held by the river, held by the light, held by the slow, steady unfolding of the day. The city rises on one side, rests on the other, and between them the water flows and you sit, and the moment extends, gentle and calm and unhurried. And you remain watching still. You stand from the bench and walk slowly back through the Brooklyn streets, and after a few blocks you see a diner. It sits on a corner, its facade modest and worn, its large windows reflecting the street, the pale sky above. The sign mounted above the door is simple, the letters faded but legible, the neon tubing visible behind the glass though it is not lit now in daylight. Through the windows you see the interior, a row of booths along one wall, a counter with stools, the movement of figures inside, the warm glow of overhead lights. You approach the door and open it, and the sound of the street is replaced immediately by the sound of the diner. Voices, subdued but present, the clatter of dishes, the hiss of something cooking on a griddle, a radio playing somewhere barely audible beneath the other sounds. The air is warm, carrying the smell of coffee, of oil, of bread toasting. You stand just inside the door for a moment, letting the warmth settle over you, letting your eyes adjust to the interior light. A server glances in your direction and nods toward the seating. You walk to a booth near the window, sliding onto the vinyl seat, feeling its coolness through your clothes. The table is small, its surface laminate, patterned to resemble wood, worn at the edges where countless hands have rested. A laminated menu stands upright between the napkin dispenser and the salt and pepper shakers. You sit, looking out the window at the street beyond. A car passes slowly. A person walks by, their figure framed briefly in the window before moving out of view. The light outside is bright, direct, and it makes the interior of the diner feel enclosed, protected, separate from the day continuing beyond the glass. The server approaches, a woman in her 50s perhaps, her movements efficient, practiced. She sets a glass of water on the table, condensation already forming on its exterior, and takes a small pad from her apron pocket. You order simply coffee, eggs, toast. She writes briefly, nods, and turns away, moving back toward the counter. You are alone at the table, and the booth feels private despite the openness of the space. You wrap your hands around the glass of water, feeling the coolness against your palms. You lift it and drink, the water cold and clean, and you set it down again, watching the condensation reform, small droplets appearing on the surface, growing slowly, merging with others, sliding down the side of the glass to pool on the table beneath. The server returns with the coffee. She sets the cup before you, white ceramic, thick and solid, the kind that holds heat. The coffee is dark, steam rising from its surface in pale, wavering lines. She sets a small pitcher of cream beside it and a handful of sugar packets, and then she is gone again, moving to another table, refilling another cup, her rhythm unbroken. You wrap your hands around the cup, feeling the warmth seep into your palms, into your fingers. You lift it and drink. The coffee is hot, slightly bitter, grounding. You taste it fully, letting it warm your mouth, your throat before swallowing. You set the cup down and watch the steam rise, thin and ephemeral, disappearing into the air above. Around you, the diner continues. At the counter, a man sits alone, hunched slightly over his plate, eating slowly, methodically. 2 booths away, a couple sits across from each other, speaking quietly, their voices low enough that you cannot make out words, only the rhythm of conversation. Near the door, a group of 3 occupies a larger table, their voices louder, punctuated by laughter, though even their noise feels contained, appropriate to the space. You sip your coffee again, then set the cup down and simply sit. Your hands rest on the table, your breathing slow and even. You are not waiting impatiently. You are simply here, present in the time it takes for food to be prepared, for the kitchen to work, for the server to return. The waiting is not empty. It is full of warmth, of sound, of the quiet comfort of being inside while the world continues outside. You look out the window again. The street is brighter now, the sun nearly overhead, casting short shadows. You see the buildings across the street, their brick facades, their windows reflecting the sky. You see a tree at the curb, its branches bare, swaying slightly in a breeze you cannot feel from inside. You see a bus pass, large and slow, its windows filled with figures, each one visible for only a moment before the bus moves on and they are gone. The server returns with your food. She sets the plate before you, eggs, their yolks still soft, a slight sheen on their surface, toast, golden and crisp, steam rising faintly from beneath, a small dish of butter already softening in the warmth of the diner. She refills your coffee without asking, the dark liquid rising in the cup, and then she is gone again. You pick up your fork, the metal cool and smooth in your hand, and you begin to eat. Slowly. You cut a small piece of egg, the yolk breaking, spreading across the plate in a rich, golden pool. You lift the fork to your mouth, tasting the warmth, the richness, the simple, unadorned flavor. You chew slowly, swallow, set the fork down and pause. You sip your coffee. You reach for the toast, tearing a piece away, feeling the texture, crisp on the surface, soft inside. You spread butter on it, watching it melt into the warmth of the bread, and you eat it, tasting the salt, the grain, the slight sweetness of the crust. You eat without hurry. Between each bite you pause, you set your fork down, you sip your coffee, you look out the window, you breathe. The act of eating becomes not a task to complete but a series of moments, each one distinct, each one enough in itself. The eggs are warm and soft. The toast is crisp and buttery. The coffee is hot and bitter and comforting. You eat and the warmth of the food spreads through you, grounding you, anchoring you in this place, in this moment. Around you, the diner continues its rhythm. The server moves from table to table, refilling cups, clearing plates, her movements practiced and efficient. The cook calls something from the kitchen, his voice muffled by distance. The radio plays a song you do not recognize, its melody faint beneath the ambient noise. The couple 2 booths away stands and leaves, their place taken moments later by a single man who slides into the booth and picks up the menu without looking around. You finish the eggs, the toast, leaving the plate clean except for a few crumbs, a faint smear of yolk. You push the plate aside gently and wrap both hands around your coffee cup, lifting it, drinking the last of it, feeling the warmth all the way down. The server appears with the coffee pot, refilling your cup without a word. You nod your thanks and she moves on. You sip the fresh coffee, slower now, letting it cool slightly between each sip. You are not ready to leave yet. The warmth of the diner, the comfort of the booth, the simple act of sitting, all of it holds you here gently without insistence. You look out the window once more. The light has not changed visibly, but you sense the progression of the day, the sun moving overhead, the hours accumulating. The street outside is the same, cars passing, people walking, the city continuing. But you are removed from it, held within the warm interior of the diner, separate but not isolated. You sip your coffee and you sit, and time stretches gently around you. Eventually, the server returns with the check, setting it face down on the edge of the table. You reach for it slowly, your movements unhurried, and you place money on top of it, enough to cover the meal, enough for her time, her presence, the warmth she helped create. You slide out of the booth, standing, feeling the stiffness in your legs from sitting, from the long walk before. You move toward the door, and as you reach it, you glance back. The diner continues, the server refilling another cup, the cook working behind the counter, the other diners eating, talking, sitting in their own pockets of time. The space will go on without you, its rhythm unbroken, and that feels right, appropriate. You push open the door and step back onto the street, and the warmth of the diner releases you slowly, gently, back into the cool air, back into the light, back into the day. You walk west through the afternoon streets and the light begins to change. The sun has moved across the sky, no longer overhead but descending now, angling toward the horizon. The shadows have lengthened, stretching across the pavement, deepening in the spaces between buildings. The air has cooled slightly, not cold but softer, carrying the first suggestion of evening. You reach the Hudson River and step onto the pathway that runs along its edge. The river is wider here than the East River, its far shore distant, the cliffs and trees of New Jersey visible across the expanse of water. The surface is darker now, reflecting the sky which has begun to shift from blue to something warmer, a pale gold at the horizon, deepening to amber, still blue overhead but less intense, softening as the day releases its hold. You walk slowly along the pathway, your hands loose at your sides, your pace unhurried. The path is paved and smooth, wide enough for joggers and cyclists to pass without crowding the walkers. To your right, the river extends, broad and calm. To your left, the city rises, buildings of varying heights, their windows beginning to glow as lights come on inside, anticipating the dusk. The contrast is gentle, the buildings still warm with sunlight on their western faces, the eastern sides already in shadow. You stop at a railing and rest your hands on the cold metal. From here, you can see the length of the river as it extends both north and south, narrowing with distance, the water merging eventually with the haze that hangs at the edges of visibility. The surface moves in long, slow undulations, ruffled by the breeze that moves upstream from the harbor. Small waves catch the light, flashing briefly before darkening again. A boat passes, a small sailboat, its white sail full and curved, its hull cutting through the water with minimal wake. You watch it move across your field of vision, silent from this distance, its progress steady and unhurried. It passes behind a pier and disappears, and the river is empty again except for the movement of the water itself. You remain at the railing, watching the light. The sun is lower now, approaching the horizon line formed by the cliffs across the river. The sky around it has deepened to orange, to gold, the color spreading outward in gradations, each band of light bleeding into the next. The clouds, thin and scattered, have begun to catch the light, their undersides glowing pink and amber against the darker blue above. The light on the water has changed as well. The surface is no longer gray-green but golden, reflecting the sky, turning the river into a mirror of the sunset. The reflections are broken by the movement of the water, fractured into thousands of small bright points that shift and dance, creating a pathway of light that extends from the far shore toward you. You step away from the railing and walk farther along the path. Your shadow stretches long beside you, cast by the low sun, extending far across the pavement. You watch it move with you, darkening the path, disappearing when you pass beneath the occasional lamp or shelter, reappearing on the other side. The light is warm on your back, on your shoulders, and you feel the heat of the day that has been absorbed by the pavement, the buildings, radiating back now as the air cools. You reach a bench that faces the river and sit down. The wood is still warm from the afternoon sun, and you settle into it, your body relaxing, your hands resting in your lap. Before you, the river extends wide and calm, its surface golden and shimmering. The far shore is darker now, the cliffs falling into shadow, the trees reduced to silhouettes against the brighter sky beyond. You sit without moving, watching the light change. It happens slowly, imperceptibly, the way all natural transitions occur. The orange deepens to red, the gold becomes copper, the blue overhead darkens toward purple. You cannot point to a moment when one color ends and another begins. You can only watch as the spectrum shifts, as the day moves toward night, degree by degree, minute by minute. Around you, others have gathered along the pathway, drawn by the light. They stand at the railing, sit on benches, lean against the low walls that border the park areas adjacent to the path. Everyone is quiet, or nearly so, their voices low when they speak, their attention on the river, on the sky, on the slow drama unfolding without sound or urgency. A cyclist passes, their figure dark against the bright water, their wheels humming softly. They do not slow. They continue northward, their shape growing smaller, eventually disappearing around a bend in the path. You remain on the bench, breathing slowly, your body still. The sun touches the horizon now, its lower edge meeting the line of the cliffs. The light intensifies briefly, flaring brighter as the sun compresses, its shape distorting slightly, becoming oval rather than round. The sky around it blazes, orange, red, pink. The colors vivid and saturated, reflected in the water, turning the entire western half of the sky into a gradient of fire. You watch as the sun descends. It does not drop quickly. It lowers gradually, half of it disappearing, then more, the horizon cutting across its face, reducing its brilliance incrementally. The light on the water shifts as the angle changes, the golden pathway narrowing, concentrating, becoming more intense even as the source dims. The sun is half gone now, a semicircle of light balanced on the edge of the world. You feel the coolness increasing, the warmth of the day withdrawing with the light. The breeze off the river is stronger now, steady, carrying the scent of water and distance. You breathe it in, feeling it fill your lungs, clean and cool. The sun continues its descent, and you watch until only a sliver remains, a bright arc of light, too intense to look at directly, burning against the darkening cliffs. And then it is gone, dropped below the horizon, leaving only its glow behind. The sky does not darken immediately. The light remains, diffused now, spread across the western sky in bands of color that fade gradually upward, red near the horizon, orange above it, pink higher still, blending eventually into the deepening blue overhead. The clouds continue to glow, their edges bright, their centers darker, floating in the luminous air. You stand and walk to the railing again, looking out over the river. The water has darkened, no longer golden but gray, reflecting the dimmer sky. The reflections of the city lights are beginning to appear on the surface, small points of yellow and white that shimmer and stretch with the movement of the water. The buildings behind you are lit now, their windows glowing, and the light spills out onto the pathway, creating pools of brightness that alternate with the deeper shadows between. The far shore has disappeared into darkness, visible only as an absence, a void where the lights end and the night begins. You remain at the railing, watching as the light continues to fade. The colors in the sky soften, losing their intensity, becoming pastel, pale pink, lavender, the faintest hint of green near the horizon. The blue overhead deepens toward black, and the first stars appear, faint and tentative, their light barely visible against the residual glow of the sunset. The air is cool now, nearly cold, and you feel it against your face, your hands. You pull your sleeves down slightly, covering your wrists, but you do not leave. Not yet. A boat passes on the river, its running lights visible, red and green at its bow, white at its stern. You hear the faint sound of its engine, a low rumble that carries across the water, then fades as the boat continues upstream. The wake spreads behind it, the ripples catching what little light remains, marking its passage long after the boat itself has disappeared into the darkness. You turn slightly, looking back toward the city. The buildings are fully lit now, their windows forming patterns of light against the darker facades. The streets beyond the pathway glow with street lamps, with headlights, with the illuminated signs of shops and restaurants. The city has transitioned into its nighttime state, its daytime structures transformed into frameworks for light. But here, at the edge of the river, the transition is gentler, slower. The pathway is dimly lit, the lamps spaced widely, their glow soft and warm. The darkness between them is deep but not complete, filled with the ambient light reflected from the city, from the water, from the sky itself, which still holds the memory of the sun. You walk slowly along the path, moving northward, your steps quiet, your breathing even. The river is darker now, almost black, its surface barely distinguishable from the air above it except where the city lights reflect, creating broken lines of brightness that shift and waver. The sound of the water is more pronounced in the darkness, the gentle lap against the pilings, the subtle rush of current, the occasional splash of something unseen. You stop once more, standing at a place where the pathway curves slightly, giving a long view of the river extending north, the lights of the city lining both shores, creating parallel lines of brightness that converge in the distance. The sky is nearly dark now, the last traces of sunset fading in the west, replaced by the deeper darkness of night. The stars are clearer, more numerous, though still faint compared to the city lights. You see the moon, a thin crescent low in the western sky, its pale light adding to the accumulated glow. You stand here at the edge of the river between the water and the city, between the day that has passed and the night that has arrived, and you breathe slowly, feeling the coolness, the stillness, the gentle completion of the light's long arc across the sky. And you remain, watching, as the darkness deepens around you, calm and patient and whole. You turn from the river and walk back into the city, and the streets are quieter now. The evening has deepened into night, full and complete. The traffic has thinned, the sidewalks emptied. Where there were crowds hours before, now there are only scattered figures, each one moving slowly, separately, their footsteps echoing faintly in the stillness. The noise that filled the day has withdrawn, leaving behind a softer soundscape. The distant hum of a car blocks away, the low rumble of a subway passing beneath the street, the occasional voice carried from an open window above. You walk slowly, your pace matching the rhythm of the night. The street lamps cast their amber light onto the pavement, creating circles of warmth that overlap and fade, overlap and fade. Between them, the shadows are deeper but not threatening. They are simply the absence of light, the natural state of the night, and you move through them without hesitation, your eyes adjusting, your other senses heightening. You reach a corner and stop. The intersection is empty, the traffic lights cycling through their sequence for no one. Red, green, yellow, red. You stand at the edge of the curb, watching the pattern repeat, listening to the faint mechanical click as each light changes. The sound is clear and the quiet distinct, a small marker of time passing. You do not cross. You remain at the corner, looking down the cross street. It extends into darkness, the lights along its length growing fainter with distance, the buildings on either side shadowed and still. A few windows glow, warm rectangles of yellow, white, the occasional blue flicker of a television. But most are dark, their occupants asleep or away, the buildings resting. You turn and continue along the avenue. Your footsteps are the only sound now, soft but audible in the stillness. The rhythm is steady, unhurried, almost meditative. Left, right, left, right. You notice the way the sound changes as you move from pavement to metal grate, from smooth concrete to rougher stone. Each surface has its own voice, its own texture beneath your feet. You pass a closed storefront, its metal gate pulled down and locked, its interior dark. The gate is covered in graffiti, letters and symbols layered over each other, colors muted in the lamplight. You glance at it as you pass, taking in the shapes without trying to decipher meaning, seeing it as texture, as pattern, as part of the night's surface. Ahead, steam rises from a grate, pale and slow, drifting upward in a loose column before dissipating. You walk toward it, and as you approach, you feel the warmth rising from below, a pocket of heat in the cool night air. You pass through the steam, feeling it brush against your face, your hands, and then you emerge on the other side and the coolness returns. You stop beside a lamppost and rest your hand on the cold metal. The post is old, its paint chipped and worn, the metal beneath showing through in places. You feel the texture under your palm, the roughness, the solidity. Above, the lamp glows steadily, its light contained by a frosted glass fixture, yellowed with age. A moth circles the light, small and pale, its wings catching the glow, its movements erratic but contained within a small orbit. You remain here, your hand on the post, looking out at the empty street. The buildings rise on both sides, their facades dark except where windows glow. The height feels less imposing now. In the darkness, the upper floors lost in shadow, invisible against the night sky. The city has contracted, drawn inward, existing now only at street level, only in the pools of light that mark the pathway forward. You step away from the post and continue walking. The avenue curves gently and you follow it, letting the path guide you. You are not navigating by landmarks or street names. You are following the light, following the pavement, following the quiet pull of the night itself. You pass an alley narrow and dark, its entrance a black rectangle between buildings. You pause at its edge looking in. The darkness is complete, impenetrable, but you hear something. A faint rustle, the scrape of something moving, then stillness again. You do not enter. You simply acknowledge its presence, then move on. You reach another corner and stop again. This intersection is wider, the crosswalks longer, the buildings on each corner taller. You stand at the edge, your hands in your pockets, watching the traffic light cycle. A taxi passes, slow and soundless except for the hiss of its tires over the pavement. Its taillights glow red as it moves away, growing smaller, turning at the next block and disappearing. The street is empty again. You cross slowly, alone, your figure small in the center of the wide intersection. The pavement is smooth here, the painted lines bright under the street lamps. You reach the far side and stop, turning to look back. The intersection behind you is unchanged, still empty, still cycling through its lights. The avenue extends beyond it, disappearing into darkness and distance. You cannot see where you began. The night has absorbed it, folded it into memory. You turn forward and walk to a bench set back slightly from the sidewalk, in a small recessed area beside a building entrance. The bench is metal, cold to the touch, but you sit down anyway, settling into the coolness, letting it ground you. You rest your hands on your knees and look out at the street. The night is still but not silent. You hear the low hum of the city ever present, a baseline frequency that never ceases. You hear the faint sound of music from somewhere above, muffled by walls and distance, just the rhythm audible, the melody lost. You hear your own breathing, steady and calm, and the occasional sound of air moving between buildings, a soft sigh that rises and fades. You sit without moving and time softens around you. Minutes pass, or perhaps longer. The distinction no longer matters. You are not measuring duration. You are inhabiting it, filling it with your presence, with your stillness. The bench holds you, the night holds you, and you hold yourself, centered and calm. A figure appears far down the street, walking toward you. They are distant at first. Distinct, just a shape moving through the pools of light. Slowly they draw nearer, passing beneath one lamp, then another, their features gradually becoming visible. A man, middle-aged, his hands in his pockets, his pace steady. He passes without looking at you, his footsteps fading as he continues down the avenue, and then he is gone, absorbed back into the darkness. You remain on the bench. The city breathes around you, windows darkening as lights are switched off, others brightening as someone wakes or cannot sleep. The buildings stand patient and solid, their presence unchanged by the hour, by the emptiness of the streets. They have stood through countless nights like this, and they will stand through countless more. You stand and begin walking again, your path continuing along the avenue. The rhythm returns, walk, stop, stand, observe. You pass another corner, another storefront, another pool of lamplight. The repetition is not monotonous. Each moment is distinct. Each pause holds its own quality of stillness, its own particular arrangement of light and shadow and sound. You stop beside a building where ivy climbs the facade, its leaves dark and glossy, catching the lamplight. You reach out and touch one leaf, feeling its coolness, its waxy surface. The plant is alive, growing, even in the darkness, even in the city. The thought does not need words. It simply exists, felt rather than articulated. You continue walking, and the night continues with you. The streets remain quiet. The lights remain steady. The city rests in its late-night state, neither asleep nor awake, simply existing in the suspended time between evening and dawn. You are part of this suspension, moving through it, held by it, belonging to it. You reach a place where the avenue opens onto a small square, a widening of the street with a few benches and a single tree at its center. You walk to the tree and stand beneath it, looking up into its bare branches. The branches form intricate patterns against the lighter darkness of the sky, crossing and recrossing, dividing into smaller and smaller shapes until they disappear into points too fine to see. You stand here, your head tilted back, your breathing slow, your body still. The wind moves through the branches, gentle and brief, and you hear the faint creak of wood, the whisper of air moving through the bare twigs. Then the wind passes and the stillness returns. You lower your gaze and look around the square. It is empty, quiet, enclosed by buildings on 3 sides, open to the avenue on the 4th. The benches are unoccupied. The pavement is smooth and clean, marked only by the shadows cast by the tree, by the lamplight filtering through the branches. You walk to one of the benches and sit down. You rest your hands in your lap and you breathe and you are still. The night holds you here gently, without insistence. The city continues around you, distant, present, patient. The light glows steady in the lamps. The buildings stand quiet and solid, and you sit, breathing, watching, part of the stillness, part of the night, held in the vast, quiet space that the city becomes when the day releases its hold and the darkness settles in. And you remain, sitting, breathing, still.